All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started just so that we can get through the entire training in the allotted time. There are going to be people joining on. That is perfectly fine. We will be recording this, so it will be available for future reference. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Natasha Brown, and I am the implementation specialist here at BookNook. I'm going to be walking us through today's training. Our goal is to make sure that everyone is ready to use BookNook after this training. I also want my colleague to introduce himself. My colleague Ben is also on the call, and I'll let him do his own introduction.
Sure. Hi, I'm Ben. I'm an impact manager here at BookNook, and I'm on this call so I can provide additional support to Natasha as well as yourselves. If you have questions as Natasha is doing training, please feel free to throw them into the chat feature, and I will see if I can respond in time. Or in chat. There it is. All right. Back to Natasha.
Thanks. So we just have a couple of things in place because we have a large group of people today, and we want to make sure that we answer every question. So as Ben said, if a question comes up as we're going through the training and you need an immediate response, go ahead and put it in the chat box, and he is going to try to respond in a timely manner. We're also going to have stopping points after each section, so you will be able to also ask questions then. All right, in a moment, I'm going to get started. Do we have any questions before we go into the training? Okay, actually, apologies. I have one more logistical thing that we need to do. Everyone is going to need to sign in and sign out for this training. So in the chat box, I'm going ahead and I am putting in a link to a Google Doc that is within your own organization. So make sure you are signed in with your Alum email in Google, and then go ahead and open this document. Now, Ben and I are not in the Alum organization, so we actually don't have any access to this document. We were just given the link. So if you can get into it with your Alum login, go ahead and sign in by clicking on the link. I put it in the chat box. And then at the end, you're going to sign out as well. If you cannot get in and you're still using your Alum email, please, actually, let's go ahead at now or later on or during sign out. If you could give us your name in the chat box, we're going to send a follow-up email and say, everyone signed in using the Google Doc. These are the people that didn't have access, so that you get so that you are on the attendance roster for this training. Great. Got it. So we'll add Adriana, Julia. It looks like we have a couple of people that are unable to get in. Apologies about that. I wish we could control it. Yeah. Is everyone? Yep. What Ben just said. If you could go ahead and do that. If it is saying that you need permission, please just make sure that you're not logged in with your personal email. We had that issue yesterday, so a couple of people had to change to their Alum email. So again, if you cannot log in, you can go ahead and just put your name in the chat, and we're gonna create a list so that you get credit for coming to this training. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the training. So we're going to go through a couple of things before we actually jump into the to BookNook. We are going to go through a setup process of how to set up BookNook. So before we do that, we just want to quickly review if you have never used or heard of BookNook before, what is it? So BookNook is a program that can be used for several different literacy needs of your students. We provide small group instruction for kids, as well as one-on-one or independent or intervention. Now, BookNook was originally created to be used in person. So it would provide a small group intervention. We also provided all of the support for guides. So you'll see in the app, once we take a look inside, that we provide all of the curriculum as well as the data on students. And it took about 30 minutes. Now that we have started using BookNook remotely, we've found that we have a couple of other features that we also support, including one-on-one tutoring. So we have a couple of partners that use us in that way. We also support guides, so we're able to have a volunteer base that can also work with kids. And we found that it also takes about 30 minutes remotely as well, with the benefit of being able to be done from home. Now, as mentioned, BookNook was originally created to be used in person. So there is just a couple of steps that you need to take beforehand to use BookNook remotely, and that includes setting up your video chat. So when it is your time to use BookNook, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to open up the video conferencing platform of your choice. So if Zoom is approved for your district, you're going to use Zoom. However, if you're using Google Meets or Microsoft Teams, you can use that as well. In that video conferencing session, you're also going to have the kids log in. So you will be able to see and speak to students. Now, at the same time, so once you log into your video conferencing, you're going to open another browser, or if you decide to download the app onto your device, you're going to open up the app, and you're going to be running BookNook at the same time. So everyone participating is going to have two things open: video conferencing and BookNook. And this also goes for students as well. They are going to have video conferencing open, and then they're also going to have BookNook. Now we understand there may be a couple of barriers to this, and I can kind of talk us all through it. For those students that will be able to do this on their own, we have a parent messaging form that we're going to provide to you all. And what this parent messaging form is, it's just a one-pager with step-by-step how to log into BookNook. We find that the first day or two to have a family member there is really helpful, and then after that, students can log on. Now, if you're using a group of students that absolutely cannot log into BookNook separately, we do have another option that I'd love to explore a little bit during our question time. It includes an extra step for you as the guide. You're going to be playing 3 people, so you'll have the video, you'll have your BookNook open, and then another one. And I'll walk through that during question time, but just know that we do have a way to do that. We've kind of navigated that with a couple of partners to make sure that we can support that. One more resource that we're going to give you is a place to organize everything BookNook. And you all will be getting, I'm referring to these resources, you will all be getting it by close of business today or tomorrow, early tomorrow. And what we have here is a scheduling template. So you can actually have everything live here for BookNook. You can put your Zoom or Hangout link directly here. As you see, we already have that BookNook site here. And then what you do is you put the student's name and username under the day and the time that they'll be working with you. The last thing that you're going to want to communicate to parents is the devices that they can use to run BookNook. So we run on a variety of devices, including iPads, Chromebooks, Androids, Macs, PCs, and tablets. At the moment, we do not run with cell phones. So there does need to be some other sort of device in the home. All right. And we've reached the end of our BookNook setup, so we want to pause right now and take a moment and answer any questions you may have about just setting up BookNook. So any questions that you have about setting up video and setting up BookNook at the same time?
There was a question in the chat about whether the forms for families will be available in Spanish, and the answer is yes.
Yep. And you're going to get this whole deck with all the links included. So you could just click on the link and then copy it, and then you can edit it. So yeah, you are going to have access to that.
We have a question about, are students preloaded? Yes, your administrators at each site will have uploaded your students. If they are not there when you first log in, they will be soon. And password information for the teachers should come through a welcome email from BookNook. If you have not gotten it, check your spam, and also ask your administrator if they have uploaded the full staff. The last check you can do is if you log into BookNook, you go to the login page. It should be your Alum Rock email. You can put that into the inbox, or the space where it says email, and then click forgot password, and it will auto-generate a new password for you to log in.
Thanks, Ben. Again, a couple of people may have already gotten your BookNook login via email. Exactly what Ben said. If for some reason you can't find it in your inbox, try putting in your email address and clicking forgot password. That doesn't work. It means that you have not been added yet. So just give a couple of days. We have trained administrators. So we have connected with all your principals and actually made each principal an administrator of their own site. So your principals, if you do not have an account and you find out you don't have the email and you can't do forgot password, you can contact your principal directly and they will be able to add you into BookNook. Brittany and a select people on the IT team did a really great job of going in and being like all Alum Rock super administrators. So they also have access to every single site in your district. So they will be able to help you as well. All right, without further ado, I'm going to take us into the app, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're going to look at. So we're going to look at a couple of different features in here. Now I'm using Adelante as our training, which I've been doing for all of my Alum Rock trainings. So you're going to see a little bit of data here. When you log into BookNook, the first thing that you're going to see is an overview of how you're doing with the students. So it's going to tell you the standards completed, it's going to tell you total sessions, it's going to give you a list of students that have been doing BookNook and students that are struggling. It'll also give you a list of students that maybe have not been attending. Now, I mentioned that your students are going to log in with their usernames. You can find the usernames on the student tab. The great thing about BookNook is when students go to that site or the app, whichever one they decide to put on their device, they are just going to see a space to put in their username, no password. Now we'll be revisiting this, but every session that you do is going to be logged in the session tab. I'm going to show you a trick of what to do if you run out of time and want to rejoin the session at a later date. And I want you to remember that at the session tab is going to be where that button, I'll refer back to it again, but the button to rejoin is also going to be found here. And if I click on a previous session, I'm also able to go back and see how my students did. And it'll actually show me information for every single student, as well as any notes that I put in here. Now, I mentioned at the beginning, oh, go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say, on this page, Natasha, we had some questions about the Fontes-Pinnell correlation chart. Could you highlight it here?
Definitely. So in BookNook, you'll see that all of our lessons are organized by Fontes and Pinnell reading levels. For that reason, what we do is we have our lessons tab, and I like to think of our lessons tab as our library of lessons. Here you can find all of the books that we have and all of the scaffolding support available, and it's going to be organized by grade level, reading level, and then it's going to show you the standard. Again, your students have already been put into the into BookNook, and we've actually, or I shouldn't say we, you all, your staff has actually pulled the reading levels from their previous assessments, so that students are going to be entering at appropriate grade at the appropriate reading level. Now, I mentioned when students are using BookNook, it's going to go ahead and based on the reading level that they're at and the standard that they're working on, it's going to actually just pull up the lesson for you. The purpose of this lesson tab is that we always give you the option to change it. So let's say you were working on a certain standard in class and you want to make sure that you're aligning BookNook time to that standard as well. You can go ahead and find the standard here. Let's say I was working on a 3rd grade standard at a reading level N. And it'll allow you to preview the lesson. It'll allow you to see the questions and the vocabulary, to read the book. And if you want to start the session from here, you can do that as well. And the last tab is a report tab. Quick overview of how you're doing with kids in terms of usage and student progress. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start the session. When you log in, this is how you're going to start with students. You're going to see two types of features open up. The one that we're going to mostly use is going to be the guided session. That's how you're going to run your sessions. We do have a leveling tool for you all. So let's say you would like a quick assessment on what a reading level a student should be at. This leveling tool, I do want to note that this leveling tool was created so that we have some sort of assessment to put to determine which curriculum students should see. However, we also recognize that online and remote assessments are going to be needed throughout the year. So we're currently working on building our leveling tool so that it is a bit more intricate and can support you in terms of your assessment needs. But I'd like to think of it as a 5-minute running record that you can do one-on-one with a student. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go into a guided session. And actually for Alum, I'm going to highlight one feature that we have that's available to you all, which is our dual language learner lessons. I'm going to go ahead and walk through a lesson that has this. What the dual language learner feature does is it provides all scaffolding and assessment questions in both English and Spanish. So my student, thanks Ben, is already logged in. I'm going to click on their name. Now, when a student logs in, they're going to appear on the top of my list. You can also search students and select them that way. And what we've done is you can actually select any students from this list and add them to your group. Even though they're not logged in, we want to give you the ability to add them to your group, and then when they log in to join you, we understand students might have connectivity issues or anything else that might happen, so you will be able to put them in your group, and then they'll just join your entire group once they log on. And if it's a new student, you can add a new student right here. So based on the reading level of my student, it has suggested a lesson. Now I'm going to change things a little bit for today's training. I'm actually going to start with this comprehension lesson. We have several different curriculums in BookNook. So comprehension is the bulk of what students will be working on. It's typically a frontospinal reading level J through Z, which would be aligned to grade levels 2nd and above. We have a completely different curriculum for students that are reading levels A through I, which would be a K through 2 grade level. Now I'm going to show you this one first. I'll take questions, and then if needed, we can also go through the phonics as well. First thing we do is we ask students how they're feeling. We want to gauge how things are going. This is sometimes the most useful piece of information that you can get before starting a session. And then we start with some new words. So the great thing about BookNook is you don't have to remember any instructions for today. At the beginning of each section, it tells you what to do and what to say. So here, this is I believe this is a science book, which is why we're going over so many science vocabulary words. So students are going to see this part on their screen. They're going to see the bottom of your screen is your student screen. So they're going to have the visual, they're going to be able to...
Paper circuit. Circuits built on paper using batteries and other supplies.
Use the audio to go through the definition. Now, once I spend a couple of minutes on allowing students to go through and use the audio and introduce themselves to vocabulary, they're now going to go through an activity where they're practicing. Now on your screen, it's simply going to show you this. You're going to be able to track the student progress. However, we understand you want to see what the students are doing. You want to see the students' question. So during the activity at any time, you can use this feature called our preview activity feature. And this shows you what the student side looks like. So this, what we're seeing right here, is our student screen. This is what each student is seeing. Oops, I made a mistake. So they're going through the definition in each word. Now, when my students are done and it lets me know, I'm going to move on to our next section, which is a game called Words and Birds. So this is how students are going to review what we just learned. Using the preview activity, I'm going to show you what the students are doing. So they're going to see one of the vocabulary words. They're going to click on the word that matches it. And you'll see the faster that they click on the word, the more points that they will get. And then we go into question time. So question time is the assessment portion, which is why at the top of the page, you'll see it requests that students work independently. You're going to be able to track students. So if they get a question correctly, you're going to see a dot light up in green. If they get it incorrectly, you're going to see a dot light up in red. And to see those assessment questions, I just want to show you very quickly the vocabulary assessments. They go from definition and sentence to using the vocabulary in complete sentences more in a contextual sense. So we see here when electricity splits and comes back together, what it is called a what. I'm gonna say science was not my forte, but I'm gonna take a guess and I'm going to say a short circuit. Oh, yeah. So after students go through several questions on that, it's going to alert me when all my students are done. And then we move into the reading. So the reading part follows a similar structure. We read a book together, we introduce new material, we play an interactive game before we go into the assessment. It reminds us, the book that we're working on, today's objective, tells me how many pages. So the reason why we do this is reading time can really be structured how you'd like. If you want to start by reading the first page and then split the remaining pages amongst the kids in your group, you can do that. It's up to you. We do recommend using our just talking points. So you're going to see these discussion questions pop up throughout the book. You can click on them. And we recommend that you just stop, talk to students before moving forward. So building squishy circuits. And start the book with my talking point. And then I'm going to go into the first page. For reference, I believe this would be a 3rd or 4th grade reading level. Okay, I know Q was 4th grade. This is one down. So Ben, is it still 4th grade or are we on 3rd? Ah, I see. I'm getting better. This is a 3rd grade. So I'm going to start by reading the first page. I won't for you guys. Don't worry. And then I can actually flip the page for my group by clicking on the green arrows. Now, let's say another student was reading. I can go ahead and click on that student's name. And if you'd like, you can give them the ability to click the pages for the entire group. Now, it is an option, so you can just keep it on your name and flip the pages as well. We picked a very interesting one. Normally our books are fictional, but today we got a science one. So I do want to note that most of the time we have storybooks. Just so happens that randomly picked this paper circuit one. All right, and so when we get to the end of the book, we're going to close the book. We have a couple of guided questions that you can use if needed. And after we get a recommendation from your kids about the book, we go into Feed the Animals. Now I'm going to give you a preview of Feed the Animals for the students. Here you're going to see the student screen. So this is what your students are going to see. They're going to feed the mouse and the rabbit by answering several questions about what we just read. So first question, what was in the book? Well, I know we had wires. I think we had light bulbs. I don't remember seeing potatoes, but I do believe seeing here. Oh, no, I was wrong. So I actually thought that those were carrots. Okay. Now, after students go through a couple of questions and feed the animals, it'll let you know. It'll let you know who scored the most points before we go into the next section. So this is question time. Again, question time is the assessment, so they should be working independently. You'll see here, we just asked for some feedback. And I know I've highlighted these features before, but I want to make sure we know you track the student progress here, you preview the activity here. And then we are done. So at the end, it's going to ask you to write any notes. If you'd like, it's optional for each student. Before I show you our final screen, I want to show you a feature we have. So let's say you're running BookNook and you run out of time and you want to be able to come back to the session the next day. You wouldn't click all done or next. You'd click the BookNook icon in the top left corner and then click sign out. Once you do that, it's going to allow you to log in the next day or up to 7 days after, and I'm going to show you where to find that rejoin button. But before I do that, I want to show you our final screen. So it's going to tell you for each of your kids that was in the group, how they did. If they didn't pass, it lets you know. And if it's a level change and we can celebrate, it'll let you know that information as well. And then we're all done. So before we open the floor for questions, just want to show you where to find that rejoin button. The next day or the next 7 days when you come back, you can go to the Sessions tab. And instead of saying completed, you're actually going to see a rejoin button. Click on that, log your students back in, and you're going to start where you left off. All right, so I'm going to stop talking for a while. I want to pause to take any questions that you guys have.
Natasha, we had a good question for people who are wondering, kind of from the student's experience, when you move from stages, what's happening with the students? So if, for instance, so Natasha is using the green button there from the teacher's guide perspective to move from one stage to the next. When she would click that, it will move the entire group of students, if it's one student or if it's multiple, onto the next activity. If a student is working within an activity with a partner, say student A finishes and student B is still working, you can obviously, the student is going to communicate that to you, but you'll be able to use the progress bars to see that one student has finished before the other. If student A is finished, they have a holding game that they can play until student B catches up. But at any time, if you need to move a student on, or the group on because of time's sake, you can do that by just pressing the green button. You do not have to wait for students to finish.
Thanks, Ben. All right. I also want to take questions about, I wanted to kind of get a sense of how many people will be working with younger kids. What you saw, comprehension is the majority of our elementary kids. Phonics is the same flow, it's just a different content. So it's going to be focusing on phonemic awareness and building foundational skills of reading. So we do have a first grade, and looking at time, we do definitely have time to walk through. So if it's okay with you all, I'd like to walk through a phonics since we have several people that are here that will be using phonics. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change the student reading level. Or no, let's go ahead and go on. I'm going to show you the choose a lesson feature. So I'm going to start exactly the same. And now I'm going to go ahead and change it. Now, if your students are reading level A through I, don't worry about changing it. It's automatically going to happen, or students, apologies. However, if you ever want to change a lesson, maybe it's you want to work on a different standard, you want to change the book, you can go to change lesson, and it organizes each of our curriculum. You can just click on the standard and then see all the books that we have. Now I want to change the curriculum completely to phonics. And then I'm going to go, let's go. I've been doing level A's a lot, so let's try, now let's do level A. And I'm going to select the book. And then I'm going to start the lesson. So you'll see it's very...
Your screen is stuck on the previous.
Oh, thank you so much. Apologies. I always pause it when we're cut on question time, and sometimes I forget to unpause it. Thank you. So what I just did, I'm going to go back one step. I want to make sure everyone sees what I just did. So I'm going to end the session, start the session again. Again, login is going to be exactly the same. You're going to click on the guided lesson. You're going to select the student that you want to be in your group. And then you'll see change lessons here. So you can actually, if you want to change lesson or just change the book, you can use this as well and see what other books we have to support as standard. I'm going to change the curriculum completely to phonics. So I'm going to click on a reading level A, the standard that I want to work on. and then the book that I want to work on. So you'll see, it's very kid-friendly. And on the first screen, it's going to give you some info about what we're introducing. So at the top, you can use this content to introduce students to this new skill that we're going through. And then on the bottom, it's going to show you what the students are seeing. So the students are being introduced to the word. They're being able to use the audio, and then they'll have a visual to go along with it. Now that one was pretty quick. This is a reading level A. We typically spend anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes, as long as students need to go through, use the audio, ask questions, practice with you, repeating the words. And then when you move on from that first screen, we go into our first activity. So we're going to create groups. It tells you here what the instructions are so that you can review the instructions with the kids. So it says here, the instructions, the students are going to click on a word and they're going to group them. And when I start the activity, they're going to do just that. So I'm going to give you a preview of what the kids are seeing. They're going to click on a word, put it in a box. Now when you're done, I'm going to click next. Typically in phonics, we go through anywhere from 2 to 3 activities with students. You'll see this one's a little bit different. They're completing the word. And when we go through all of those activities, we go into reading time. So you'll see reading time is structured a little bit differently with phonics. We recommend using a read aloud structure so you can read aloud to the students. If you do want students to read, you can do that. However, for phonics, it's not a recommendation that we make. So you'll see the structure supports you pacing through the book, which is why you have the arrows. Now we start simple. Students are going to go through each word, and you can actually read it out loud or have them repeat after you. And then when we're done, we're going to close the book. We're going to we have our guided questions always after. And then we go into practice. So practice is going to follow a similar structure to what students saw during the activities, as well as the same content that they saw as well. And practice is as it says at the top, it's the assessment part of our phonics lesson. So you do want to make sure that students are working independently on their own. And as always feel free to use our preview activity to see what the students are doing. You can see the assessment question right here. And we are done. So as soon as you get your login information for BookNook, you will also be able to go through and do a demo lesson. So the first time you log in, it asks you to run through a demo. So this was to give you a quick overview of all the features that we have and what we do in the app. However, we do want to note that you will be able to run through it on your own and see all of this again. All right, one more pause. We want to see if there are any questions about the phonics curriculum, the phonics lesson that we just went through.
We did have a question about whether the phonics is available in DLL or in Spanish, and the phonics lessons are also available with the DLL support.
Yep, so phonics is both of our curriculums, all of our curriculum is available in DLL. So phonics lessons, you'll see that yellow kind of label on them. If it has that yellow label, click on that, it means it's a DLL lesson. So we have it for phonics. we have it for comprehension. All right. So if there are no questions, I want to leave you with a way to contact us. Again, you can reach out to the principal of your site as well as your IT team, and Brittany is your point person. However, we want to, if you have any questions, you can write into support@booknooklearning.com. Our impact team is behind that email and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. For any questions that you may have, you might want to check out our FAQ page. You're going to see our FAQ page answers a couple of commonly asked questions that we have when using BookNook.
And Natasha, I think we are going to want to highlight in the time we have remaining the leveling tool.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, so let's pause. All right, so going into the leveling session, you enter the same way. You are going to click on Start a Session, Leveling. Remember, leveling is one-on-one, so you're going to work with just one student. And so it tells you what you're going to do. You're going to see a passage. Your student on their screen is going to see the same exact passage. On your screen, you're going to have a couple of extra things. So you're going to have the ability to click on a word if they say it incorrectly, mark it as an error. Or click on a word if they say it incorrectly but self-correct, and mark it as self-correct. Students will not see anything that you mark. They will always see their passage and only their passage. So this is a higher level, so that's why it's longer. For younger kids, so the lower their reading level, it's going to be a much simpler content as well as a much shorter passage. So you'll see I click Start Reading. Remember, my student is just seeing this passage. And what I'm doing is, as I'm listening, I'm marking the words they say incorrectly or self-correct. If you make a mistake, just click on it. You can remove it. Now, as I get to the bottom, when I click Done Reading, students are going to be working on comprehension questions next. So when I click Done Reading, I'm going to be alerted here when they're done, but they are now answering several comprehension questions about the passage they just read. And when I see this change to the Done marker, I'll click Next. And it gives me some data. Now, based on the stats that we got from this assessment, it tells me the student's reading level was a P and they should move down to an O. If I agree with this assessment, I'll go ahead and click on yes, this is correct. And the student's curriculum will be moved to an O. If you feel like, no, I don't want this to happen, I feel like I want to assess them in a couple of days, you click no, it seems wrong. And it's going to stay at the previous level of a P. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take a look in the chat as well to see if we can answer any questions. So we had a really important question here, one that says, are the comprehension questions read to the students or read for the little ones? So what you can do is you can use our preview activity to actually read out loud via video to the little ones. It's not done in-app, but you do have the ability to do it with them. So yeah, so we had a question about all students being enrolled under the student tab. This is the default that we have. The reason why is working remotely, we found that some of our sites tend to change groups. So if they're working on intervention, their student list for 1 week may change to the next week. And so because of that, we have given all access. And so our recommendation is you're going to be working with anywhere from 1 to 6 students per session. We recommend having that roster and just going ahead and using our search bar, typing in their name, and then you can go ahead and add them to your group. And you'll see, you'll be able to see your students are also included in that list. And yep, Ben answered that question. It looks like Ben, you answered a lot of the questions. So those are just the only 2 we had at the end that I wanted to address. Oh, we had one more. Regarding the errors, is there a feature where you write what was said? We don't have a feature where you can write, like, let's see, like the errors in leveling. I'm a little confused, but Ben, it looks like you addressed that one, right?
Nope, sorry. I think there was an autocorrect I had earlier about re-leveling a student who had been, if you feel that a student is input at the correct level, you do not have to use the leveling tool to adjust them again. You can, however, at a later time in the school year, if you want to reassess them, you absolutely use the leveling tool there. But I believe this question is regard to any hard notes about the types of errors that students are making in the middle of a leveling session. We don't have a space for that at this time. So errors are treated, errors, the accuracy, comprehension, as you saw, and the words per minute are all factored in different weights depending on the grade level to influence that decision about moving a student up, down, or in the middle. So if you would like to track specific errors, you can always note that yourself somewhere else.
Let's see.
Okay, so we had a question from Ms. Torres about seeing students. If you're seeing students that are not necessarily that you may just have in your homeroom and you are in charge of other students for instruction, you're going to want to contact your administrators to talk about that assignment. But for the most part, I believe the sites have been set so that you will be able to see all students for this very reason at this time. As students are shifting around classes, switching, if we're trying to figure out which class they might be sorted into, we are leaving it open right now, and then we can help your administrators reassess to assign immediate access to students.
Student passes level, will the program run? Yep, the program will. And also it'll let you know if that's the final lesson. At the end of the lesson, it'll let you know, hey, they're passing a level, they're changing levels. And then it's automatically gonna update the curriculum to the next reading level.
Any other questions, guys?
So in terms of passwords, your administrators are going to be, and they've been doing all the sites, so I think they're just finishing up a couple of sites. They're going to be creating it for you. They're going to be creating your accounts for you, and then you'll get an email that's going to go say, welcome to BookNook, and you'll be able to log in with your with your district, your Alum Rock email. It'll give you a temporary password, and then you can just go ahead and adjust the password. Great question. So at the moment, we want to make sure that we still keep that student-teacher relationship. So students do not work independently, emphasis with at the moment, because we've realized that there is also another need for students to be able to work independently. So you will see later on in the year, an announcement is going to go out when we have finished creating the feature where students can log in and actually run a session on their own. Again, I don't want to put a date on it, but it will be later on in the year. Yep, so kids are going to log on using the same website address that you log on as well. And it goes to the student screen, and then you just have to select, I'm a guide. That link is going to be provided in the follow-up, as well as every resource that we put in there. Just for reference, if you go to app.booknooklearning.com, again, I'm gonna spell it app.booknooklearning.com, you'll see the login screen. If you just Google BookNook and you go to our company site, there's also gonna be an option it'll redirect you to the app as well. I do also want to mention that we have an app. So if you feel like that is going to be more useful for you, you can find us in the Google or the Apple store, and you can download the app onto your device and you can access BookNook that way. So your choice, you can access BookNook from the browser, or you can access BookNook via the app. All right. Well, we want to thank you all for attending this training. We are very, and I mean very, excited to partner with you all this year. We do want to make sure that you feel supported. So we ask that if you have any questions, any needs, anything, if maybe you just want to review something from this training with us, please reach out to us at support@booknooklearning.com, and let us know if there's anything you need. And without further ado, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Oh, sign out, thank you. So you're gonna use the same link to sign out. If you can't sign out, Ben and I'm not taking credit for that. Ben has gone ahead and added your name to a list that we are going to be sending out later. So we wanna make sure everyone gets noted for attendance. So if you weren't able to sign in with your Alum Rock email and you put your name in the chat, we're gonna send that list to Brittany as well. And Ben, are you good on that list? Absolutely, we could definitely send the link. I'm gonna go ahead and copy and paste it, right? Now. Oop, Ruth, apologies, I sent it to Ruth. I'm going to. Oh,
I got you, Natasha.
Thank you.
I did the same thing. Okay, so I see this month.
When we fill out there, it'll say, you just say 3 to 4. We're just ending at 4-ish now, so you cannot sign in, and if you already put your name in, you're good. But it looks like we have one more person. So Ben, are you okay to add that to the list?
Yes, got it. Okay.
Okay. Great. All right. Again, thank you all. We look forward to working with you, and please enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Oh, we have one more.
I got Ruth already.
Got it. All right. Everyone, enjoy your evening.
Thanks so much.